It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome back inside the lab to the Monday edition of the fantasy hockey source that you need. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. We're breaking down all of the weekend injury updates that are affecting your squad, waiver wire targets, and, of course, Monday's holiday special betting board. Welcome back. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Another big week of fantasy hockey on tap, and that's why you are tapped into your source for fantasy hockey news. It's the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, big Monday edition, and a shout out to all of our everydayers, everyone supporting the show for making us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 moneyline bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Steele, you know Mondays are big around here. Slipping on the waiver wire is something that, regardless of where you're at in your league, if you're still going for that top spot, or like a lot of leagues have a few spots that get paid out, you don't want to slack on Monday's waiver wire targets. That's why we got all of our favorite ones lined up for y'all. Very quickly off the top of the show, a lot of injury updates that I'm going to break down super fast. And of course, Monday's bets. Martin Luther King Day, south of the border. Shout out to everyone celebrating. That means early lineup locks as well, Steele. That was one of the shout outs that I got to get out. 1 o'clock games all across the board. So we're going to tap into that, of course, very quickly. Ovi, day-to-day, that's going to be affecting your lineup. It's looking like that will only be day-to-day, Steele. So we got to mention Ovi, 38-year-old left winger, still very fantasy relevant, even though he's struggling. Then Jack Eichel. This one a little bit more concerning, Steele. Vegas head coach Bruce Cassidy saying he's going to miss a little bit of time, quote unquote. That doesn't sound too good, especially for a guy who's put up 44 points in 42 games. Again, a piece you're going to need to address. We'll help you out there in a little bit. Stay tapped. And actually on the return front, Philip Gustafson back in the crease for the Minnesota Wild. Jake Ottinger, not so good, back in the crease for the Dallas Stars. And lastly, Kirill the Thrill Kaprizov back for your mini Wild as well. Just got to get that off the top, Steele. Got to keep you guys updated. But over to you, because waiver wire targets is the bread and butter of every Monday episode. Who you looking at? Who you liking this week?
Yeah, I've got a big list of goaltenders on the waiver wire target this week. I know you've got one as well. I just want to talk about an honorable mention real quick. It's probably only going to happen once this entire season that I talk about the San Jose Sharks, just to fill in for Jack Eichel right now. Maybe I'll talk about Logan Couture when he comes back into the lineup.
There you go.
But Tomas Hertl of the Sharks, 41% rostered on Yahoo right now. You can't ignore a player who puts up 30 points in 41 games, 101 shots, 35 blocks, 35 plus blocks and hits, 22 penalty minutes, and 10 power play points. So again, I'll probably talk about Logan Couture when he comes back from injury,
of course,
which has been a very while. But other than that, I'm not going to talk about any other San Jose Sharks players. But I'll get into my first goaltender, and it's a player and it's a goaltender that I've kept my eye on a lot this season. And even though I have some issues and differences with the coaching of John Tortorella, I got to show some credit where credit's due to Samuel Ersson of the Philadelphia Flyers, 33% rostered on Yahoo Sports Leagues. This could be a very valuable trading piece for the Flyers moving forward if he continues to play like this. On the last year of his entry-level contract, he did sign a 2-year, $2.9 million deal in the offseason, and he's living up to that right now. 11-5-2 record on the season with a .910 save percentage. He's 3-1-1 in his last 5 starts with a .935 save percentage and a shutout against those Winnipeg Jets, who are top of the league right now. Went 35 for 35, played absolutely outstanding. So the last 5 games especially, he's been on his game and helping this Philadelphia Flyers team hold on to a 3rd spot in that Metropolitan Division. They're giving up a little bit of offense to work on their defensive play, and it's working out right now. They're top 10 in goals against with 118, but 22nd in goals for with 126. So it's clearly working for them Obviously, you want a little bit more offense when it comes closer to playoff time if they're in the postseason, but they're top 3 in the Metro. They're top 10 in the standings with 52 points. And a lot of the credit goes to Carter Hart and Samuel Ersson, who are playing outstanding right now. And Samuel Ersson actually has a little bit of a better record than Carter Hart, even though their statistics are relatively the same. A lot of the credit goes to their goaltending along with their defensive play right now. And I'll show some credit to even John Tortorella for what he's done to this team.
Wow, how does that feel? A little bit like vinegar, a little sour for you.
Sour coming out of my mouth.
That's okay, because you know what? You're describing this Philadelphia team very accurately, and I would also throw out this description. They're a pesky club to play against. They very much have the demeanor of their head coach, and they actually are one of the best penalty killing units in the league as well. So they are just a very tough club to play against. And then you throw in the mix that their goaltending is getting it done, and it makes sense why I like to bet a lot of these Philly games under. So this is an angle that I really like that you're covering. I'm going to talk about a goalie as well then right off the bat, since it feels like this is going to be a bit of a theme. But with Kochetkov down with injury, at least for now, there actually really isn't a long prognosis, any kind of detail on his injury, but he got smacked in the crease. It's a concussion protocol. That's something we won't speculate on, but for now, also a good performance from Antti Raanta over the weekend. And look, Freddie Anderson is not an option right now. Kochetkov looking like he might need some time to rest up. And yeah, the Carolina Hurricanes are sniffing around at a lot of options. And actually one that I heard today, Steele, that makes the most sense, Jacob Markstrom to the Carolina Hurricanes. And actually I could see it the more that I think of it. They also have a ton of cap space. He has a very friendly, I think like $6.75 million. Anyway, Pittsburgh, they get the win. Raanta, 40 shots on net, 38 saves. Right now, you have to take a look at Raanta. And this week, they only play twice, so I understand. But you know me and goalie Steele. And if Kochetkov, it comes out this week that he is even out a couple weeks, you're going to thank me later that you went out and got Raanta 5% on ESPN, 30 on Yahoo. A lot of weird discrepancies with the numbers that I'm looking at for these players. Anyway, veteran Raanta getting another shot. I like him over the next couple of weeks in a big way.
Those are probably the top 2 goaltenders on the waiver wire right now. There's not a lot of goaltenders out there on the waiver wire, especially when you're in a 16 team league. So, you got to pick and choose where you can. I've got 2 more goaltenders, not as great as the first 2 that we just mentioned, but I'll mention this player, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen of the Buffalo Sabres, 16% rostered on Yahoo. Again, not one of the top guys off the waiver wire, but he has been of late. 3-1-1 in his last 5 games with a .922 save percentage in that time. He is 9-9-2 on the season with a .901 save percentage and a 2.91 goals against average. Clearly, the difficulties for the Sabres is in the blue paint. They've got some young goaltenders. They've got some inexperienced goaltenders. And again, it's just one of those problems where if they can find a starter that will take them really over the hump and get them into the postseason and actually be a little bit of a competition in that Atlantic division. But clearly the struggles continue in the blue paint. But out of both goaltenders of Devin Levi and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen has been the better goaltender of the last 5 games. So I just wanted to give him a quick shout out as well as one of those guys who is on the waiver wire for sure.
It's kind of interesting that you and I, and for good reason, have been very excited about the Buffalo Sabres coming into this season, and I'm not here to pick on your prediction. There was a whole lot of people picking the Buffalo Sabres to make serious moves in the Atlantic Division. I'm not fully going to count them out and say that's impossible, but sitting 10 points back of the Toronto Maple Leafs in third, they're going to even have to go on a really nice run to make a wild card spot at this point. So I think there's also something to be said about all that excitement we like about all those good offensive young pieces, young faces, young goaltenders. Growing pains. That's what I'm looking at, and that's exactly what's happening. What's going to happen right after the break? We're going to continue. I got another goaltender as well, Steele. So giddy up. It's a little bit of a goalie special. Waiver wire targets that you really need to be considering for the rest of the week. We're going to break that down right after the break, of course. I got a little same game Monday parlay ready to go. Martin Luther King Day south of the border. Lots of afternoon hockey. But we got to give a shout out to today's sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL regular season is over. The postseason is here, and there's a whole bunch of time to still get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app Super easy to use, secure, and so many different ways to lay down a bet. Live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and a whole lot more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Anyone can bake bread, but it takes something special to rock it. This is David Harrison of the Locked On Commanders podcast. This episode is brought to you by Dave's Killer Bread, champions of killer taste, killer texture, along with killer nutrition. Dave's Killer Bread is the organic bread you can eat on its own if you want to. Add your favorite sandwich fixings, and you've got yourself an elevated eating experience that you won't find anywhere else. So make sure you visit daveskillerbread.com to learn more and do what my family and I do. Look for Dave's Killer Bread in the bread aisle of your local grocery store. That's Dave's Killer Bread, bread amplified.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Make sure you go on YouTube, check out Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts, plus the national shows covering every single league. So go over there on YouTube, subscribe to the first ever national 24/7 sports streaming channel. It's been up for over a month and a half now, doing wonderful things over there. They've always got you covered. And thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Continue to hit our subscribe button and the follow button and leave a 5-star review.
Please.
Leave the comments on the channel of what you agree, disagree, what you want us to talk about, any topics, any segments that you would like us to cover. We'll get you covered on this podcast every single day, Monday through Friday. Flip, I'm going to throw it back over to you because I've had two players. You've had one. You want to go back to your second goaltender, or you got some other players you want to talk about?
I think so. And here's one of the tough angles because, again, I mentioned the discrepancies in ownership on different platforms. And I know not everyone out there is just on ESPN or Yahoo. Fantrax or some other ones really coming out there that are starting to be legit. Starting to find a lot more people using Fantrax, by the way, Steve. A little sidebar. Yes. Really liking Fantrax. Anyway, Connor Ingram, another shutout. 5 shutouts on the season. My goodness, we've covered the angle about him coming out, and we expected Vejmelka, and it's been him. Connor Ingram deserves some respect because I swear down, if this guy was on a better team, Steele, given how good he's looked on certain stretches, he would be in the mix for the Vezina this year, I swear, if he was on a better team. That might be a bit of a stretch, but what's not is they play the Flames, Canucks, and Preds. And I know the Canucks are red hot, but I like their chances this week against all 3 of those clubs. And Connor Ingram's only owned at 57% on ESPN, and this is where it jumps. Yahoo, 73. So I get this is a little bit of a tricky one because most people out there in Yahoo aren't going to be able to add him. 920 save percentage, Steele. 15-8-0. And as much as we know the Arizona Coyotes are better, we like their moxie. We like where they're headed. Defensively, there is a lot to be left to fix. And the fact that Connor Ingram is still holding it down and putting up these numbers, and I know we've talked about him before, he just deserves some credit again because he looked so good over the weekend.
And that's exactly why he was on my top 10 players under 100 games or less
he was
at the number 8 spot. So I love the fact that you're bringing him up for the waiver wire targets.
Only 26 years old, by the way, as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Getting right into his prime and really getting going with this Arizona Coyotes club. I don't like the fact that it was against my Minnesota Wild. So, a little tit for tat there with Connor Ingram. I got one more goaltender and a forward to talk about. Got to talk about Sam Montembault of the Montreal Canadiens as well. 24% rostered. Obviously doesn't have the best numbers throughout his NHL career because he has been with the Montreal Canadiens the last 3 seasons, and they've been rebuilding, revamping, and really trying to find their way in this really tough Atlantic division. But Montreal really seems to like Montembault and want him to be their guy moving forward with Caden Primo backing him up. Made that clear by signing him to a 3-year deal. And putting Jake Allen on the trade block, who I believe is top 5 on the trade block as well from Craig Button. So that's something to keep an eye on moving forward, getting closer to March of what Jake Allen's future holds with the Montreal Canadiens. But Montembault 9-6-4 on the season with a .909 save percentage. He's also 25 or 26, I believe, He's 2-1-1 in his last 4 games with a .928 save percentage. I know the Montreal Canadiens are still struggling. 3-5-2, 3-5-2 in their last 10 games. Really struggling to win games, but they're not allowing a lot of goals. And Sam Montembault has been a big reason of that. I've liked his play again in those last 4 to 5 games. And that's my third and last goaltender that I want to talk about for the waiver wire targets.
The fact that man is putting up that save percentage, because look, goals against average, it's a number you have to pay attention to, but that might be a stat somewhat more indicative of team play when save percentage is not a number that goaltenders can hide behind. That will really reveal if a guy's feeling it or not. And the fact that Sam Montembault has almost a .910 save percentage and he faces the amount of rubber that he does, is very impressive. And I would read into that stat a lot more than the record in terms of wins and losses, because the Montreal Canadiens really do struggle in their own end. Defensively, it's a bit of a mess for them. So shout out to Sam Montembault. Absolutely love it, Steele. All of these are very, very intriguing goaltending options. Here is a player that I think actually both of these guys that I got 2 forwards. I'll keep this tight. I don't think I've talked about either of these players on this show, and I'm going to start with Tyler Seguin. Tyler Seguin is running it back, and I know he's like saying 31. It feels like Tyler Seguin's been in the league for 2 decades.
Yeah, I know.
So as much as when I look at it, it's like 31, it feels like he is a lot older than that. He's almost played 1,000 career NHL games. Anyway,
wow.
Really, really good season from Seguin. 16 goals, 17 assists. I seemingly come on here, Steele, and talk about a Dallas Star every week, and it's for good reason. This is a really, really good team. Matty Duchesne, Mason Marchment, and Tyler Seguin. Right now, there's not many better secondary line options than those 3. They're cooking. The Dallas Stars have been a little bit up and down. They got Jake Ottinger back. Watch this team go now. We've also talked a little bit about Jason Robertson, how he's been pretty solid. He hasn't jumped off the page. They're getting it done with Jake Ottinger hurt. Jason Robertson not really doing much. Miro Heiskanen is out. If all these things come together, this Dallas Stars team is going to be really, really hard to beat. And Tyler Seguin over his last 5 games, 3 goals, 2 assists. Really, really good. I really like Tyler Seguin this week. I'll wrap it up with this Steele. 35% on Yahoo, up 18%. 35% on ESPN, up 18% in the last week. They play 4 times this week. Flyers, Islanders, Devils, and Kings.
Look, I talked about Tyler Seguin last Monday. I talked about Mason Marchment 2 Mondays ago. I was going to bring up Matt Duchesne, but then I realized he was rostered at 74% on Yahoo. So I couldn't bring him up. But yeah, you're right. That third line of those 3 players is really getting it done for the Dallas Stars again, without some of their top guys performing, especially without Jake Ottinger in the lineup. My last player for the waiver wire targets, got to talk about this unbelievable streak the Seattle Kraken are on, and I'll talk about them coming to big time bets as well. Eeli Tolvanen rostered at 47% right now, 28 points in 42 games, 87 shots, 87 hits, 48 blocks, while playing under 15 and a half minutes. Under 16 minutes of ice time. Seattle Kraken on a 9-game win streak. I believe they'll get to 10. And, I'll talk about the big time bets soon. But Tolvanen, 5-game point streak with 7 points in that time. And speaking of another third line in the Western Conference, the third line of Oliver Bjorkstrand, Eeli Tolvanen, and Yanni Gourde has been absolutely stellar for the Kraken as they've climbed up the Western standings right now. So they continue to play red hot. Obviously, a lot of thanks goes to Joey Decord, Vince Dunn, who leads the way on the blue line. But Eeli Tolvanen is getting it done for them on that third line, under 16 minutes played. So I got to mention him as well.
Joey Decord. What is happening? You know what, Steele? Like the last few days in the NHL have been absolutely sensational. And if people are hating on hockey or like, oh, it's not that enticing or exciting, I would say run back the tape from the last 3 or 4 nights, because scorpion saves, crazy fights, even just off-ice antics. I don't know if you saw Biz pumping up the OHL Kitchener Rangers in the locker room. That was great. Man's been catching up a little power outage. I've been locked in on content the last couple of hours. Anyway, the NHL has been a wild weekend. The Kraken streaking, Edmonton Oilers streaking, Panthers almost going to double digits as well. Just what a time to be alive. I got one more target. Let's talk about it right after the break, and then I'm going to fire off these big-time bets, because this same-game parlay I'm cooking up, Steele, it's free loot.
I'm really excited to see what game it comes from. So I'm excited to hear what your same game parlay is, where the money is made. Big time bets coming up very, very soon. But this episode is also brought to you by Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when buying tickets to your next big event. That's why Flip and I always use the Game Time app. Game Time is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and their best price guaranteed. Flash deals, zone deals, last-minute ticket prices, easy to find tickets to any kind of event in your area, and you can even get views from your seat from the venue, lowest price guarantee every time. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you the complete peace of mind with your purchase. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. And the Game Team guarantee means you'll always get the best price. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Hey everyone, Chris from Locked On Avalanche here. If you like using debit over credit, I just learned about something that's definitely a game changer. Discover Cashback Debit. It's a checking account that rewards everyone with cash back on everyday purchases, which means you can get cash back on NHL tickets or head-to-toe hockey gear to make this season a total win. Check out eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashbackdebit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe, the follow button, and leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support you show us every single day. We're going to get to big time bets very, very quickly. Both 3 picks from Flip and I, but Flip, last player off the waiver wire target.
Again, another player that we haven't spoken about, and I understand that Blake Coleman is a very streaky player, and he can go absolutely ice cold for like weeks on end. He's not a draftable player, but right now he is somebody that you have to take a look at, and he's red hot. 4 goals, 4 assists in his last 5 games. And what's interesting about his deployment right now, Steele, is Andrew Mangiapane, Michael Backlund, and Coleman is their second line. It's also their second power play unit. And I actually don't know how many situations in the NHL that the guy's regular 5-on-5 line is the exact same 3 forwards that run out an entire power play unit. And I don't know what the track record is. I'm not trying to dig into crazy numbers, but right now it's working. Also, Michael Backlund feeling it. I don't know if you saw the clip of Michael Backlund's daughter reading the lineup.
So cute.
These are the moments. Don't ever come at hockey ever for anything other than it's the absolute best game. And if you need more evidence after all the action I just spoke about, tap into that, because that's what it's all about anyway. That's not any tangible fantasy success, but Blake Coleman's bringing it right now, Steele, and he is the perfect little week-to-week ad, although 75% up big on Yahoo, so that's going to be tricky. But again, discrepancies, 55 on ESPN, so he might be out there. Also, Leafs, Coyotes, and Oilers. And I know the Oilers are cooking, but they allow goals. So Blake Coleman and the Calgary Flames, who are also playing better hockey. That's what I was going to just mention. Lastly, Calgary Flames have won 3 straight, 6-4 in their last 10. I like to have a look at Blake Coleman. The second he stops putting up points, though, I'd probably immediately drop him, because he tends to do this. Streaky and then not so good in the same fashion.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to pick up guys like Blake Coleman right now who have been red hot, but then, again, you pick him up, he might go cold. You got to drop him right away. Let's get over to big time bets where the money is made. I've got 3 picks, but I want to hear the same game parlay first. Well, what game does this come from, and what are the picks?
So, look, it's an enticing little afternoon of Monday action. Plus, they moved the Bills game to this afternoon, Steele. Your boy might be tapped into the old Miller Lights a little early. But anyhow, 10 games on the board for today. 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, a whole bunch of afternoon games. I'll spit it out here, Steele. You sold me a little bit on Nathan MacKinnon. And you know what? We're going to talk about a conversation maybe tomorrow, later in the week. Nathan MacKinnon, Connor McDavid. Maybe we'll do a Who Would You Rather, but you're selling me on Nathan MacKinnon, and he's selling me too. So it comes from Colorado into Montreal, Steele. And look, Montreal has been an improved team. Sometimes they look really good. They are not a good club overall. Colorado holds an 8-2-0 record. Same game parlay is right from this game. and I'm cooking up some little McKinnon magic. Hit me with McKinnon over 1.5 points. I don't have the odds up because they're fluctuating. Avalanche on the puck line. They've been absolutely destroying Montreal. They hung an 8-piece on them the last time they played at the end of last season, 8-4. So Colorado, Montreal over 6.5. Lock of the night is Colorado on the puck line. The Toronto Maple Leafs blow a lot of leads, Steele. I don't know what you saw there, but, talk about it if you will after I'm done here. I'm concerned for a number of reasons. I say it, what do we say it? Last 7 years, maybe 8. Toronto Maple Leafs, talk to me on April 30th, and then we can decide. Because they're going to be there, but right now, a lot of concerning things going on for this club. Anyhow, Colorado's feeling it. Big come from behind win. Give me them. Puck line. Give me the over. And Nathan McKinnon continues to cook. Take him over 1.5 anytime points.
Love the picks. Love the same game parlay. Honestly, it was just it was a bad game for the Toronto Maple Leafs after the first period. The first line, the top guys of Nylander, Matthews, and Marner just didn't play good. They didn't show up. And that's why they lost. I thought Martin Jones was playing really good up until a point in that third period. So
Mark Giordano looked awful, Steele.
Yeah, he did. He did.
I'm worried, really worried, because he looks like he is.
A lot of the defensemen looked really bad in that game. TJ Brody's really been pissing me off lately as well.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that maybe later this week. We'll talk about Nathan McKinnon and Connor McDavid later this week.
Yeah.
But I've got 3 picks as well. I'm going back to the well over here.
Yes.
Hey, JT Miller, man. JT Miller just getting it. I got to talk.
Are you sponsored by the Miller family to talk about?
Yeah, low-key under the table.
Yeah, okay.
I lived in Vancouver for almost a year, so I kind of got the drift over there. But first pick of the night, Canucks puck line plus 112 against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Canucks just continued to, distance themselves in that Pacific Division as the Vegas Golden Knights and Kings have been falling. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. They're on a 5-game winning streak. Canucks puck line against this riddled injury team of the Columbus Blue Jackets as well. It was really bad defensively. So Canucks puck line plus 112 on Monday night. Second pick, Kraken money line on the road as well. I'm taking a lot of road teams on this Monday night or Monday day. Kraken money line plus 126 against the Pittsburgh Penguins. They're also on a 9-game winning streak. It's more of just a gut feeling as well as how the Pittsburgh Penguins have been playing as of recently as well. They're 5-2-3. A lot of games go into overtime, but Kraken, again, getting it done offensively. A lot going on with that third line of Bjorkstrand, Yanni Gord, and Tolvanen. So I like the Kraken money line plus 126, Canucks puck line plus 112, and the lock of the night, Hurricanes money line against the LA Kings. Like I said, the Kings have been brutal the last 10, 2-4-4 in their last 10 games, while the Hurricanes have gone 7-1-2. And when these two teams have met up in their last 10, Hurricanes have won 9 out of the last 10 and have won 8 straight against the LA Kings. So that's the lock of the night for me. Hurricanes on the money line minus 152. I believe your lock of the night, was it the McKinnon 1.5 points?
It's Avs puck line, but it could be that too, because McKinnon is just beast. We'll save all the McKinnon takes for perhaps tomorrow, but that come from behind win, Steele. And I know it's like the Leafs maybe did it to themselves a little bit, but I'm not going to take away from a come behind win, 3 goals down against a good Toronto team. Yeah, say what you will about their defensive play. They're a good team. So this is the kind of thing that can really, because Colorado, the fact that they are where they are in the standings, they have all been a bit of a mess on the back end. A couple of weeks ago,
Big Gorgiev, man, he's been really bad.
And Devin Taves calling them out, and then after and this is what I think people need to talk about Devin Taves a little bit more, because this guy is respected on the ice, not flashy. They're 8-1-1 since he called them out. So there you go. Anyway, we're heated. Fire episode, Steele. Take us away, brother. We'll be back tomorrow.
Hurricanes money line lock of the night, Avalanche puck line lock of the night for Flip. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. And once again, go to YouTube, check out Locked On Sports Today. They're here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus the national shows covering every single league. So make sure you go over there and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. And thank you so much again for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with all your bets out there. And we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Shout out the Took episode. Peace.
Attention hockey fans looking for NHL news and analysis? Look no further than the Locked On NHL podcast, offering daily insights on all the top NHL stories. From trade deadline and free agency rumors, teams on the rise, and discussion on the league's biggest stars, Locked On NHL has you covered for 30 minutes, 5 days a week. For your next listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hey, Prime members, you can listen to this Locked On podcast ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the Amazon Music app today.